What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. MTG here with another episode. If you're new to the channel, hi there. So with the release of the iPhone 17 Pro, I've been pretty much using it since launch, September 19th of 2025. And I kind of want to talk about the pros and cons of this device because in the past 9-10 days at the time of this recording of using this phone, I've gotten a lot of questions through YouTube comments and obviously through friends and family about this phone, and talking about like, hey, should I upgrade, should I keep my phone, and things like that. So I kind of want to go through the pros and cons of this phone and what I have seen. So starting things off with the pros, in the design department, it does feel more lightweight, even though in reality it's actually heavier than the 16 Pro, but it does still feel, light. And it has that aluminum unibody with a ceramic shield, which Apple does say it is more durable, both in the front and back. Ceramic shield too, but I wouldn't try it. You've seen Scratchgate going on, and while people may say, hey, that's a con, I've seen tests too itself directly from Apple too, and it looks like it is stronger too. I've seen drop tests. It does tend to hold up. So in that department, yes, but if you're talking about just like the scratching of the anodization, that may be a con for many people unless you throw on a case anyway. So if you do, then you don't need to worry, but there are quite a few people that like to rock their phone caseless, so just keep that in mind. I think another pro is actually the Pro. Just getting the smaller Pro over the Pro Max. It's got a smaller, more compact than the Pro Max. You may argue that 6.3 inches is not a compact size, but this is 2025. Heading into 2026, there is no 5.4 inch iPhones anymore. It's 6.3. That's the new compact size, and it feels more comfortable to hold than the Pro Max and easier to use just one-handed. And also another pro I think is the display. It gets super bright. That 3000 nits of peak brightness outdoors is awesome. Again, you also get Pro Motion 120 hertz. The OLED display is just phenomenal. Thin bezels all around. Absolutely love it. Some pros about this performance: the A19 Pro chipset. It is awesome. Like buttery smooth, lightning fast performance. Excellent for gaming and heavy multitasking. If you're going to use this phone for consistently, gaming, or use it consistently for social media or watching YouTube videos, media consumption, whatever the case may be, this will not break a single sweat. And it's got 12 gigs of RAM, which does mean smoother app switching and background processes. So that's also a huge plus. With previous Pros, there was like 8 gigs, and before that there were 6. So it's nice to see that Apple is adding more RAM, even though they don't usually talk about the amount of RAM or the amount of battery. But breakdowns do show that we get 12 gigs of RAM, which is a huge plus. Now, of course, another thing is the vapor chamber cooling that's inside the 17 Pro, and actually a lot of the internals are kind of like sitting around this area where the camera plateau is, and everything else is essentially battery. And since this is the eSIM model, we do get that larger battery, but that vapor cooling chamber does keep performance consistent under load. So if you're playing a lot of games and you think it's going to get warm to the touch, it's going to disperse that heat throughout the entirety of the phone rather than just keeping it in one area. And that's why they kind of went with aluminum. It's just better with thermal management. And in my use right now, I haven't had any warm touches or heating problems. That was an issue with my 16 Pro, but not with the 17 Pro. So good job, good improvements there. When we get to the cameras, yes, this is some pros with the cameras. The triple 48 megapixel camera setup, that is a pro, and it's got improved low light results, sharp telephoto zoom, 4x, as well as 8x, and the results are good. Like Apple's processing, it's not just working on like AI and computational photography. When you take a 4x and 8x photo, essentially that's coming directly from what you're taking. There's not too much processing like what Google does, even though they do a great job with computational photography and processing. Apple's, I just feel, when you take a photo, the result is just more natural in a way, even though I love pixels. But photos and videos here are great. Now, if you're looking to get into content, this is the perfect phone. Like, I know so many people who have the iPhone 17 Pro now and are still asking me, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. Like, what are you waiting for? You have the perfect device. You have the perfect tool. The best camera is the one that you carry with you, and the one that's in your pocket, that's your iPhone 17 Pro or Pro Max. And it can even just be the iPhone Air or the regular iPhone 17 or just any for that matter. But in this case, iPhone 17 Pro is awesome. You also do get an improved 18 megapixel front-facing camera with center stage, which, you know, intended for having, you know, good video calls, and also when you're taking selfies, just, you know, getting more without kind of switching your phone in landscape horizontally, holding like this, but you can essentially just hold it like normal and take a horizontal landscape photo. But I think this is a great addition for video and just opens more opportunities and more great ideas for anyone who wants to get into content. Another great thing is dual capture. Like this, I think, you know, while it's probably intended to share things with friends and family too, I think a lot of people who are in the content space can make use of this. Imagine you're just kind of, you know, commentating, showing something like, you know, you're talking about the Apple Watch, and, you know, you're also using yourself and talking to the front-facing camera. That's also great. So dual capture, I think, is a great addition to this. Obviously, you get ProRes RAW, you get Apple Lock 2, you get Genlock support for those who are in the professional creative space. That is a huge, huge plus. Like, you really cannot go wrong. Now, the one con is, like, there isn't 8K, but I don't record 4K at this point. I have yet to, and I will be getting on that at some point in the future. But as of right now, I don't really see the need for 4K footage. But again, 8K would have been nice because, you know, S25 Ultra, its competitors have 8K recording. I think another pro is the battery department. Huge improvement over the iPhone 16 Pro. Like, I am getting easily 5.5, 6 hours of screen on time on this smaller Pro when compared to the Pro Max, and that's even better. This phone is great. Battery life is awesome. Charging speeds, especially if you do wired, and I have like the correct adapter, I get like 50%, you know, around like Apple quotes 20 minutes, I'm getting like 22, 23, so they're almost right. They're almost on point. But it also has MagSafe charging, Qi 2, and all that great stuff. So even if I don't charge it with a wire, with a cable, then I have wireless charging pretty much, you know, at work, at home, my desk setup, my living room, bedroom, you name it. Like, I have wireless chargers, MagSafe chargers pretty much everywhere. So that, you know, I do appreciate that. But overall, huge improvement in the battery department. And then I also do think another pro is actually going to be, in my case, in my use case, iOS 26, the software support. It's been pretty stable and bug-free so far. So far, though, I have heard some complaints about, you know, those who are using their iPhone 17 Pro and messaging app, for example, it's really buggy, it lags, it's slow. But again, it changes from user to user. And for me right now, it's been great on the 17 Pro. My 16 Pro, however, was not great. So we're going to see long term if iOS 26 with, you know, Apple continuing to push updates will help with, you know, other users, but for me at least, it's been great. Now let's get into the cons of this. I'm gonna start off with the pricing because $1099 is expensive. For 256 gigs, it's still one of the most expensive non-Max flagships. And if you want to go and get a higher storage model, they start to get very pricey very quickly. Like if you go for a Pro Max 2 terabyte, that jumps you and brings you to $2,000. No need to say any more or add on to that. But another con is, I don't think this is for everyone. I think it's pretty much like overkill for casual users who just want social media and like watch videos, TikToks, whatever it is, and just, you know, messaging, calling, texting here and there, and just like the normal stuff. But then again, I also see those same people go and get a Pro or Pro Max and don't use 90% of the stuff that the Pro and Pro Max have to offer. But again, that's their decision. I'm just saying, I don't personally think it's not made for everyone. And the smaller screen, having a smaller screen than the Pro Max may feel limiting for those who are, you know, wanting to, you know, use it for gaming and just for media consumption. If you're, you know, in that department, you're a heavy user for gaming, media consumption, this may, you know, feel a little bit limited for you. For me, it's personally great though. The customization and the ecosystem lock-in, I think that's another con. iOS is smooth, it's great, but I use an Android device. I use a Pixel. I've used Samsung devices before. Like since I'm always switching my Android devices, I've tried them all, and none of them. I mean, Apple can't compete with any of them. I'll put it that way. In terms of customization, yes, we're getting more features each and every year, but I still feel like if you want more customization, you go with an Android device. And I think the best experience, for you to get out of with using an iPhone is kind of being invested in Apple's ecosystem. Like if you have an Apple Watch, if you have AirPods, you have an iPad, you have a MacBook, whatever it is, that's when the ecosystem kind of starts to settle in and everything just works together really well. And for those who also use like Apple's FaceTime, iMessage, it's really hard to get out. You're in an iMessage group chat, and like once you leave and you have the different colored bubbles and all that stuff, it's like people start to complain. And I agree with that. And that's kind of why I have an iPhone as my secondary device. FaceTime. I also understand. I use FaceTime quite often too, but I also have other messaging apps I can use on my Android device when I don't have FaceTime. So I've found workarounds for me that work perfectly fine. But for those who just have one phone and that's, their iPhone, they use FaceTime and messaging, it's going to be hard to get out, but I still think it is possible as long as you can find some workarounds. Now, I think another con is actually going to be with the design and build. And that's just the fact that like the anodization coating on this is just really weak. I like the build. I personally like that it's aluminum and all that, but the coating is not great, especially if you rock your phone caseless. You're gonna have a hard time, avoiding scratches. Like it's gonna happen sooner or later, and you're gonna start to see color wear and all that stuff. And I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody, so I would advise to rock a case, especially if you have this deep blue or the cosmic orange color. You're gonna notice that much more. So I would say rock a case, but that unfortunately is one of the issues that's going on right now. There are ways to kind of combat that, and that's again with a case, screen protector, and all that stuff. But just be on the lookout and be extra safe with your iPhone. Again, you're spending so much money, you want to keep it safe. But I kind of just want to come to a verdict here and wrap things up with this specific video of the pros and cons. I think this device is awesome for power users. It's awesome for those who are in the creative space, and obviously those who are in the Apple ecosystem who want top performance in a compact Pro model. And I don't think this is ideal for those who are obviously watching their budget, which totally makes sense. By no means like I'm saying, hey, this is a cheap phone. This is a very expensive phone. And obviously I talk about all the time in my videos. The reason why I pick up these devices is, well, it's because it's what I do. I pick up the latest device, I review it. Sometimes I end up returning devices. Sometimes I'll keep them long term. So for me, like if I was not doing this, I would definitely not pick up an iPhone every single year or an Android device every single year. But again, it's what I do. And I don't think this is also for casual users too, although I'm seeing a lot of casual users picking it up and they don't end up using like most of the pro features anyway. Or any of those who just want to have like a lot of the camera versatility found on competitors and Android devices when it comes to like zoom, like 100x zoom or 8K recording on the S25 Ultra. You're not going to get that here. And those who obviously rock their phone caseless and kind of live by that, you want to be extra careful with this, and I actually think that's a con. But anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, definitely be sure to super the like button, comment down below, and best of all, share this video because it really does help out the channel out a lot and will help push my content out to more people. That's been it for me, and I'll catch you all in the next episode.